Welcome, dear listener. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let the hush of the evening settle softly around you. The world outside may still hold its rhythm and bustle, but here, in this quiet corner of time, we travel far away from urgency. Tonight, we drift back more than 5 centuries, into the slow-turning world of the Renaissance. A time when the flicker of candlelight danced on the pages of sketches and notes, when courtyards echoed with the low hum of thought, and when great minds moved through stone corridors lined with silent frescoes and open windows to the hills beyond. This is the story of Leonardo da Vinci. But not the soaring genius you may think of first, his flying machines and masterpieces, his notebooks brimming with impossible wonders. No, tonight, we wander with him through his final days, in the calm of old age, far from the streets of Florence or the salons of Milan. We will see the rhythms of his quiet daily life in Amboise, France. We will trace the moments that defined him. We will visit the mysteries he pondered and the world he observed with endless, tender curiosity. And we'll end by stepping into the rarefied lives of the kings and courtiers who once called him friend. So now, settle in. Let the soft lilt of history surround you. Allow the gentle flow of time to carry you back to a world shaped by ink and light, curiosity and stillness. Close your eyes if you like. Breathe deeply. And imagine yourself there. Oh, and if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. I am super curious where you're all listening from. So, drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Always blows my mind how people are falling asleep to this all over the world. Imagine yourself in the soft light of a French morning. It is the year 1518. You are in the lush Loire Valley of France, where rolling hills cradle rivers, and time itself seems to stretch and yawn beneath wide, open skies. Here, among the quiet folds of nature and the softened grandeur of royal estates, stands a manor house, Clos Luce. Nestled just a few hundred steps from the grand Château d'Amboise, this modest residence is warm with age. Its brick walls are dusted with moss and ivy. Rose-colored stone frames the windows, and the shutters, painted deep green, creak gently in the morning breeze. Beyond the manor, gardens spill outward in slow, geometric patterns. Paths of packed earth wind through groves of cherry and pear trees, past the ordered beds of herbs and lavender, into shaded corners where time feels even slower. This is where Leonardo da Vinci, now in his mid-60s, spends the final season of his life. The world he once traversed, Florence, Milan, Rome, those bustling centers of power and ambition, now feel far behind. The din of courts, the dust of workshops, the urgent footsteps of apprentices, all have faded into something quieter. Here, in France, the days pass in gentle succession. Not without thought, nor without purpose, but with a kind of peace rare in a life that had always been in motion. Let us walk with him now, slowly, carefully, through a single imagined day. A day that, while imagined, draws upon the rhythms of his documented final months. A day shaped by habit, memory, and the graceful stillness of a man who has, at last, been allowed to rest. The morning begins not with bells or fanfare, but with the soft creak of old wood and the steady rhythms of the countryside waking. The manor's thick stone walls hold in a pleasant coolness. Outside, the air is rich with the scent of dew on grass, damp soil, and the faint sweetness of blooming clover. In a second-floor chamber, sunlight seeps through diamond-paned windows. The shutters have been pulled open by a servant, perhaps Battista de Villani's, Leonardo's trusted companion and steward, who came with him from Italy. The soft breeze stirs the woven canopy above Leonardo's bed. A few birds chirp nearby, persistent but not unkind. Leonardo does not rise quickly. His health, weakened by age and a stroke suffered not long before, has made movement slow. His right hand, once capable of painting the world's most mysterious smile, now trembles. But his mind, still curious, wakes with clarity. He breathes in slowly, thoughtfully. Beside his bed is a low table, a carafe of cool water, a volume of Pliny's Natural History, and a sheaf of folded pages, notes he had written in the flickering light the night before. Each morning begins with observation. Not prayer in the formal sense, though Leonardo believed in a divine intelligence, but a quiet acknowledgement of order, of design, of the way things rise and fall. As he sits with assistants, his gaze moves toward the window. The view here is modest but pleasing, an orchard, a small reflecting pool, and beyond it, the edges of the royal gardens where children sometimes play, and where the king himself walks when he wishes for conversation. Breakfast is served simply, a slice of warm bread, a smear of soft cheese, and apples, sliced thin. Leonardo eats slowly, without distraction. He is not one to speak during meals. He listens, to the breeze, to footsteps in the hallway, to the way the wood groans as the house warms with sun. Later, when the sun has risen more fully, Leonardo is guided outside, into the garden paths. Sometimes he uses a cane. Sometimes Battista steadies his arm. The walk is not long, perhaps only 15 or 20 minutes, but it is one of his favorite rituals. The garden, designed in part by Leonardo himself, reflects his enduring fascination with symmetry and systems. The herbs are planted according to function, medicinal to the east, culinary to the south. Lavender and thyme grow in low borders, while taller plants, rosemary, fennel, reach toward the sky in fragrant rows. He pauses often. Not out of fatigue, but out of instinct. He notices a bee moving between blossoms, a trail of ants curving around a stone, the way water glistens on a vine's tendril. He says little, but later, back in his study, he may sketch that same vine, notating how the leaves form a Fibonacci spiral, or how the shadow falls against the wall at a particular angle. A child once asked him why he always looked at the ground. He answered, gently, that the secrets of heaven are also in the dirt. Though he no longer paints, Leonardo's workshop remains the heart of his home. It is not large, 2 rooms at the back of the manor, but every surface holds some quiet marvel. Imagine long tables worn smooth from years of use. Stacked books with handwritten marginalia. Drawings pinned like wings to the walls. Shelves lined with jars of pigment, some dried, some still vibrant, gathered in his years across Italy. There are models here, too, wooden bridges, pulleys, water wheels. A small flying device, a kind of glider, rests unfinished in the corner. The fabric, once taut, has loosened with time, but the form remains elegant. Leonardo does not labor at these models as he once did. But he returns to them with his eyes. He touches them, gently. Not to measure their utility anymore, but to honor the thoughts that brought them into being. In the early afternoons, he writes. Though his right hand is weakened, he continues in his famous mirror script, writing from right to left, with ink thin just so. He writes not for publication, but for preservation. Thoughts on anatomy, reflections on water, meditations on light and shadow. He writes slowly, carefully. And beside each page of words, a drawing often appears, a diagram, a sketch, a soft rendering of a face half remembered. On many days, he receives visitors. Not in large groups, and never without notice. But occasionally, the king himself arrives. Francis I, young and bright-eyed, speaks with Leonardo not as a monarch, but as a student might speak with a master. Their conversations range widely. Sometimes they walk the grounds together, the king gesturing with youthful energy, and Leonardo replying with slow, precise observations. They speak of cities and machines, of architecture and philosophy. On one such visit, Francis brings his sister, Marguerite de Navarre, a woman of letters and intellect. She asks Leonardo about the Mona Lisa, which he has kept with him all these years. He says only that the smile was never meant to be captured, only suggested. Other times, Leonardo is visited by young engineers, or painters from the royal court, who come not to challenge, but to listen. They sit quietly in the workshop as he speaks, explaining how water carves stone over centuries, or how the arc of a bird's flight is governed by invisible ratios. As the sun begins to lower in the sky, the house quiets once more. The long shadows of trees stretch across the garden paths. Inside, candles are lit, and their flickering light dances across the pages of open books. Leonardo dines modestly. A stew, perhaps. Bread, and a glass of sweet wine. He eats slowly, as always. Occasionally, he speaks, a memory, a question. More often, he listens to the sounds of the evening. In his final year, he spends more time reading than writing. He returns to his favorite texts, Vitruvius, Aristotle, Alhazen. He rereads his own notes as well, not to revise them, but to remember where his thoughts once wandered. Before bed, he gazes again from his window. The moon is rising now, casting silver light over the orchard. Bats flit and turn in the sky. The world seems both vast and close. He often says that he is not afraid of death, only of not having understood enough before it arrives. And then, with care, he folds his notes for the day. He arranges his brushes, even if they are no longer in use. He smooths the pages of a half-finished drawing, perhaps a whirlpool, perhaps a human heart. And he rests. This is not the Da Vinci of legend, the man wrestling with machines and debating philosophers. This is Leonardo at the end of motion, at the beginning of stillness. And in that stillness, there is no emptiness. There is observation. Memory. Quiet delight. He once wrote, "Nature is full of infinite causes that have never occurred in experience." Even as he grew frail, he believed this. That every leaf, every flicker of light, every breath of air, still held secrets to be glimpsed, if not fully grasped. And so his days unfolded like this, gently, rhythmically, with attention. A rhythm not of industry, but of inquiry. A rhythm that now lulls us, too. Let the image of Leonardo in his garden stay with you, his slow footsteps along gravel paths, his hand trailing the edge of a lavender bush, his eyes fixed on the shape of clouds as they pass. There is comfort in knowing that even the greatest minds find rest. That even those who saw deeper into the nature of things eventually looked outward not to question, but to wonder. Let the rhythm of his final days echo softly around you now. And as the world around you grows still, may you find your own rhythm. May your breath steady, your thoughts quiet, and your sleep come gently. Now, imagine yourself drifting backwards in time. You leave behind the soft gardens of Clauselus. The French twilight fades into the warm, golden haze of the Italian countryside. Hills rise like sleeping giants. Cypress trees punctuate the skyline. The air hums gently with insects and carries the rich, familiar scent of olive and earth. This is Tuscany, sometime in the middle of the 15th century, a place where the land folds and unfolds in quiet rhythm. Among these hills, nestled between the vineyards and groves, lies the small town of Vinci. And it is here, on the 15th of April 1452, that Leonardo is born. He is not born to wealth or nobility, nor to hardship, exactly, but to a kind of betweenness. His mother, Caterina, is a peasant, likely a domestic servant. His father, Piero da Vinci, is a notary, a respected but not aristocratic position. Leonardo is born out of wedlock. And because of this, many doors will never open to him. But others, strangely, will. Leonardo's early years are shaped not by cities or scholars, but by the land. He roams the hills barefoot. He watches birds and listens to the rustle of wind through dry grass. He sketches in the dirt with sticks, copying the swirl of snail shells and the shape of animal tracks. He does not yet know he is learning, only that he is curious. He observes. That becomes a theme, even then. Where other children play without thought, Leonardo pauses, questions, and draws. He watches the way water flows around a rock. The flickering pattern of leaves in sunlight. The way people gesture when they speak. He does not rush. He absorbs. By the time he is a teenager, his father, impressed by these quiet gifts, takes him to Florence. Florence in the 1460s is a city of marble and possibility. Under the rule of the Medici, it flourishes as the beating heart of the early Renaissance. Artists and poets walk the same streets as bankers and merchants. It is a city full of debate and design, where a well-placed brushstroke can earn a man eternal fame, and a clever machine might change the world. Leonardo becomes an apprentice in the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, one of the city's foremost artists. Verrocchio's studio is not a quiet place. It is a busy, industrious hive of activity, filled with smell of oil paints, the hiss of metalworking, and the gentle clink of chisels. Here, Leonardo learns more than just painting. He is taught sculpture, perspective, anatomy, mechanics, and geometry. He mixes pigments, stretches canvas, and polishes bronze. He studies how light touches different surfaces. He learns to render shadows not as blackness, but as gradations of form. He begins to sign works as Leonardo da Vinci, Leonardo of Vinci. A name that places him not in a family line, but in a place. A name shaped by where he came from, and not by whom. At some point during these years, something shifts. Verrocchio asks Leonardo to paint an angel in one of his own compositions. And when the panel is complete, legend has it that Verrocchio, seeing Leonardo's delicate handling of light and expression, puts down his brush and vows never to paint again. That story may be embellished, but the effect is real. Leonardo is not simply talented, he is different. By his mid-20s, Leonardo is receiving independent commissions. Portraits. Religious works. Altarpieces. But his pace is slow. His method, deliberate. He often leaves paintings incomplete, not out of laziness, but because his mind is always questioning, always revising. He begins to keep notebooks. Hundreds of them, eventually. Small books with sketches of inventions, diagrams of human muscles, mirrored writing that runs right to left. They are filled not just with drawings, but with thoughts, questions, hypotheses, observations of clouds, animals, machines. He writes in 1. The painter who draws merely by practice and by eye, without any reason, is like a mirror which copies everything placed in front of it without being conscious of their existence. He does not simply want to replicate the world. He wants to understand it. In the 1480s, seeking new opportunity and patronage, Leonardo travels to Milan, then ruled by Ludovico Sforza. He writes a letter to the Duke, not filled with tales of his art, but with a detailed list of the military devices he can create: bridges, siege weapons, armored vehicles. It is a bold move. It works. Leonardo spends nearly 2 decades in Milan. Here, he paints some of his most famous works, including the monumental Last Supper. But he also becomes involved in engineering, urban planning, and scientific studies. He designs theatrical sets for court pageants. He dreams of an ideal city, sanitary, organized, beautiful. And he keeps writing. His notebooks from this period reveal a mind constantly turning. He studies how birds fly and tries to mimic their movement. He designs wings and gliders, sketches early concepts of helicopters and parachutes. He dissects animals, and then, with permission, human bodies. He documents muscles and tendons, internal organs, and fetal development. His anatomical drawings will not be surpassed for centuries. Yet even as he reaches artistic heights, politics intervene. In 1499, the French invade Milan. The Sforza family falls. And once again, Leonardo finds himself without a patron. Leonardo returns to Florence in 1500, greeted as a respected master. But the city has changed. A new generation of artists is emerging, chief among them, Michelangelo Buonarroti. Their styles clash. Michelangelo is sculptural, intense, driven by religious vision. Leonardo is graceful, atmospheric, driven by observation. At one point, both are commissioned to paint opposite walls in the council hall of Florence's Palazzo Vecchio. Leonardo begins work on the Battle of Anghiari. He experiments with new techniques. But again, the work remains unfinished. The paint does not adhere well. The vision outpaces the medium. And so the pattern continues. He produces masterpieces, yes, but also leaves many works incomplete. Some criticize this. But others recognize that Leonardo's mind does not linger in the realm of the finished. It seeks new puzzles, deeper layers. In 1513, Leonardo travels to Rome, under the patronage of Giuliano de' Medici. Rome is a city of grandeur and rising ambition. Michelangelo is painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Raphael is at the height of his fame. Leonardo is respected, but increasingly seen as a man of the past, rather than the future. He spends most of his Roman period conducting quiet scientific research. Anatomy, optics, hydraulic systems. But he is given few significant commissions. The papal court prefers spectacle and scale, and Leonardo, now in his early 60s, is moving more slowly. His right hand begins to weaken, an early sign of the stroke to come. He grows tired of court politics. Tired of being admired but not supported. When an invitation arrives from France, from King Francis I, who idolizes the Italian master, it feels less like exile and more like release. Leonardo crosses the Alps in 1516, carrying with him only a few possessions, his notebooks, some clothing, and a few paintings, among them, the Mona Lisa. He is given Clause-Luce, a manor just steps from the royal chateau at Amboise. The king calls him "my father" and visits often. Leonardo is granted a pension, assistance, and the freedom to do as he pleases. Here, in the soft hills of the Loire, Leonardo finds a peace he has not known before. He reflects. He writes. He speaks with the king about architecture, city design, philosophy. He advises on palace projects. But he no longer works with the intensity of youth. He walks the gardens. He watches the river. He dreams. On May 2, 1519, Leonardo da Vinci dies in his chamber at Clause-Luce. He is 67 years old. According to tradition, he dies in the arms of King Francis I, though historians suggest this is symbolic more than literal. Still, it speaks to their bond. To the respect Leonardo commanded, even in stillness. He is buried at the Church of Saint Florentine, a structure that was later demolished. His remains were disturbed, lost, perhaps moved. Today, a modest tomb stands in St. Hubert Chapel, within the Château d'Amboise. Whether his bones lie there is uncertain. But his presence, his memory, permeates every inch of the place. Leonardo da Vinci's life was not shaped by triumphs in the traditional sense. He did not lead armies or rule cities. He completed fewer paintings than many of his contemporaries. He published nothing in his lifetime. But his legacy lives on, not only in the art we admire, but in the questions he asked. He showed us that the world is not a puzzle to be solved, but a wonder to be observed. That genius is not in quick answers, but in enduring curiosity. That beauty lies in the interplay of light and form, motion and stillness, certainty and doubt. And that to live well, one need not conquer, but only to see, deeply, gently, and without end. Imagine yourself now, stepping softly into the quiet shadows of history. The world Leonardo left behind is both known and unknown, a landscape of treasures, secrets, and whispers that stretch across centuries. As you settle deeper into this moment, let your thoughts drift gently toward the mysteries that surround him, those subtle puzzles embedded in his work, the echoes of his mind still resonating through time. Perhaps the most famous mystery is the smile of the Mona Lisa. Imagine her eyes following you in a quiet room, the soft curve of her lips neither fully smiling nor quite still. There is a whisper of movement in that expression, a secret caught between shadow and light. Scholars have studied her for centuries, trying to pin down the meaning, the mood, the very essence of that elusive smile. Is she amused? Contemplative? Mysterious? Leonardo's mastery of sfumato, a painting technique that blends colors and tones with delicate softness, creates an optical illusion that changes as you move. Her smile seems to shift with the viewer's gaze, like a secret held just out of reach. This gentle enigma invites you to slow your breath, soften your gaze, and embrace not certainty, but wonder. Turn the pages of Leonardo's notebooks and you encounter a curious feature. The entire text is written backward, from right to left, as if meant to be read only in a mirror. Why? Some suggest it was to keep his thoughts private, an early form of code. Others believe it was simply more comfortable for a left-handed writer, preventing smudging of ink. Whatever the reason, this backward script adds to the aura of mystery surrounding him. Picture yourself tracing the flowing letters with your fingers, flipping the pages in soft candlelight, and feeling the quiet intimacy of a mind thinking not just in words, but in images, movements, and dreams. Leonardo's notebooks are treasures, thousands of pages of sketches, ideas, observations, and inventions. Yet many of his manuscripts remain unpublished and fragmentary. Over time, pages were lost, stolen, or scattered. Some of his designs for flying machines, hydraulic pumps, and anatomical diagrams were rediscovered centuries later, revealing insights far ahead of their time. Imagine the thrill of unrolling a dusty parchment, the rustle of fragile paper, and seeing for the first time a sketch of a helicopter-like device, a machine powered by spiraled wings. Or a study of the heart's chambers drawn with such precision that modern anatomy textbooks nod in recognition. These relics whisper of a mind that never rested, always reaching beyond the boundaries of the present. One of his most iconic drawings is the Vitruvian Man, a perfect figure standing with arms and legs outstretched, framed by a circle and a square. This image is not merely anatomical, it is a symbol of balance, proportion, and the connection between the human body and the universe. Leonardo was inspired by the Roman architect Vitruvius, who believed the proportions of the human body mirrored the harmony of nature. Look closely at the drawing. See how the fingertips and toes just touch the circle's edge. The square encloses the body at a different angle. This interplay of geometry reflects a vision of a cosmos ordered and measured, yet alive and breathing. It is a quiet meditation on our place in the vastness, on the interconnected rhythm of life. Over the years, many have speculated about hidden codes in Leonardo's works. From alleged secret messages in the Last Supper to cryptic symbols woven into his paintings, conspiracy theories abound. Though most are modern inventions, they speak to the depth and complexity of Leonardo's mind, an imagination so rich that it invites endless interpretation. Instead of focusing on mystery as puzzle, consider it a gentle invitation to look closer, to linger on details, and to find beauty in subtlety. Archaeologists and historians have unearthed objects and sites linked to Leonardo's life and work. In Vinci, his birthplace, recent digs have revealed artifacts from the Renaissance era, tools, fragments of ceramics, and remnants of workshops. Near Milan and Amboise, careful excavations of castles and estates have uncovered traces of his engineering projects, canals, locks, and mechanical devices. Each discovery adds a brushstroke to the portrait of a man deeply connected to the tangible world, not merely in his art, but in his restless invention. Though many of his inventions were never built in his lifetime, Leonardo's ideas anticipated later breakthroughs. His studies of flight prefigure modern aeronautics. His designs for bridges and machines echo in civil engineering. His anatomical drawings informed medical understanding long after his death. Imagine a thread running from Leonardo's sketches to the airplanes that soar overhead, to the machines that power our cities today. His legacy is not frozen in the past but lives quietly in the hum of progress. Leonardo's influence ripples far beyond art and science. Writers, filmmakers, musicians, and thinkers have drawn inspiration from his life and works. His image graces bookshelves, museum walls, and screens worldwide. Yet despite his fame, he remains partly shrouded in mystery, an elusive figure who seems to glide just beyond full grasp. This gentle distance is part of the allure, a reminder that some minds are too vast to be fully known, only appreciated in fragments. Perhaps the greatest legacy of Leonardo da Vinci is a simple one: curiosity. The steady, patient desire to see the world not as fixed, but as a living puzzle. A puzzle without urgency, without pressure. Simply a slow unfolding. As you listen, imagine yourself adopting this calm inquisitiveness. Allow your mind to wander softly through questions without answers. Allow the gentle rhythm of discovery to soothe and carry you. As this segment draws to a close, Picture once more Leonardo in his quiet study at Clauselus. The room is dim but warm. The soft flicker of a candle casts shadows on his notebooks. His gaze rests on a sketch in progress. Outside, the wind rustles the leaves. He breathes deeply. In the calm of that moment, the mysteries of a lifetime are not demands, but invitations. To wonder. To observe. To rest. Now, imagine yourself stepping gently into the varied worlds Leonardo inhabited. The quiet, contemplative spaces of his workshop, the bustling streets of Renaissance Florence, the grand halls of dukes and kings, and the delicate intersections between the humble and the powerful. Leonardo's life was a study in contrasts. A man born outside the bounds of nobility, yet welcomed into courts of the highest ranks. A thinker who cherished solitude, yet often moved amid ceremony and spectacle. Let us slowly explore these worlds, and the rhythms of daily life within them. Remember the soft hills of Vinci where Leonardo's life began. A small village, its pace governed by the rising and setting of the sun. Imagine the sound of roosters crowing at dawn. The scent of wood smoke curling from stone hearths. The feel of rough linen and homespun wool. People rose early to tend fields of wheat and grapes. They milked goats, baked bread, and gathered eggs. Life was a constant cycle of small labors and larger seasons. The rhythm of the day was set by nature's pulse, planting, harvesting, tending. Within this quiet cycle, there was a simple dignity. The work was hard, often unpredictable, but grounded in the earth and the sky. Leonardo carried this connection throughout his life. The roots of observation, patience, and respect for nature that shaped his genius grew here. Now drift gently to Florence, the city where Leonardo apprenticed. Picture narrow, cobblestone streets, crowded markets with the scent of fresh herbs and spices, the clatter of carts, the low murmur of bargaining voices. Workshops line the lanes, each a small world filled with tools and material. Carpenters shaping wood, tailors stitching fine cloth, blacksmiths hammering iron with rhythmic strikes. Leonardo's workshop itself was a hub of creativity and quiet concentration. The smell of oils, pigments, and varnish mingled with dust. Assistants and apprentices moved with practiced grace, mixing paints or preparing canvases. Here, in this world of craft and commerce, ideas took shape in tangible form. Leonardo's art was born not in isolation but amid this vibrant pulse of daily labor. Contrast this with the grandeur of the Medici court. Imagine entering a palace with polished marble floors that echo softly beneath your feet. Tapestries hang from the walls, heavy with gold thread. The air carries a faint scent of incense and polished wood. Courtiers in silks and velvet glide through halls. Music drifts from a nearby chamber, lyres, lutes, soft voices. This is a world of refinement and ritual. Dinners are long and measured, conversations layered with politics and philosophy. Leonardo moves in these circles, offering paintings and designs, advice and inventions. Here, power is exercised not only by force but by influence, beauty, and intellect. His patrons are men who shape the fate of cities and countries. Yet even here, amid wealth and display, Leonardo often seeks solitude. He withdraws to gardens, to quiet studies, to moments alone with his thoughts. Another world Leonardo inhabited is one of warfare and defense. Imagine the heavy clang of metal on metal. The smell of heated oil and cold stone. The sharp edge of steel. Leonardo was not only an artist but an engineer and military advisor. He designed fortifications, siege machines, and armored vehicles. Though few of these designs were realized, they reveal a mind attuned to the mechanics of power and survival. In this realm, daily life was urgent and precise. Soldiers drilled under watchful eyes. Workmen labored to strengthen walls or build bridges. The weight of conflict, while often distant from Leonardo's peaceful studios, loomed as a constant backdrop. As you move softly between these worlds, notice the contrasts. The peasants and farmers who worked from dawn till dusk, hands calloused, backs bent by labor. Their meals simple, coarse bread, beans, perhaps a bit of cheese. Their homes small, often one room, filled with the sounds of family life, children laughing, animals lowing. In contrast, the nobility lived in spacious manors or palaces. They dined on roasted meats, fine breads, exotic spices. Their days involved less manual labor but more social maneuvering, dinners, hunts, ceremonies. Yet both worlds shared rhythms of care, love, and loss. Both experienced seasons of abundance and times of want. Imagine now the final world Leonardo inhabited, the French royal court at Amboise. King Francis I, young and vibrant, greeted Leonardo not only as an artist but as a symbol. The chateau buzzed softly with life, pages running errands, musicians tuning instruments, servants preparing sumptuous feasts. Leonardo's days here were quieter. He walked the gardens at Clos-Luz, spoke with the king about architecture and philosophy. The air was cool with the Loire River nearby. Here, the rhythms were gentler, slower. Less urgency. More reflection. Despite the grandeur or simplicity of these settings, Leonardo's personal rhythms were steady. He rose early, often before dawn. He moved slowly and deliberately. He observed closely the play of light on leaves, the texture of bark, the dance of insects. Meals were simple but carefully prepared. He favored fruits, nuts, and fresh bread. He spoke softly and wrote extensively. Through all these lives, peasant boy, apprentice, court artist, engineer, scholar, Leonardo navigated with quiet grace. His genius was not only in his creations but in his ability to move between worlds without losing himself. He was grounded in nature yet reaching toward the heavens. He was a man of science and a man of art. A solitary thinker and a man embraced by kings. As you let this world settle around you, imagine the soft closing of a book. The weight of centuries gently resting. The quiet after the last brushstroke. Leonardo da Vinci's life was a tapestry of contrasts, woven with care and curiosity. A life lived slowly and fully. And now, as your breath slows, and your thoughts soften, allow yourself to rest within this tapestry. Find the gentle rhythm of your own world. The quiet pulse of your breath. The steady beating of your heart. And drift, softly, into sleep. The night deepens now. The stars will slowly above, just as they did over the valleys of Amboise, over the hills of Vinci, and over the courtyards of Florence. The air is still. The world softens. And in this hush, we linger, one last moment, with the memory of Leonardo da Vinci. Not the genius on a pedestal. Not the legend cast in bronze or painted in high contrast. But the man. The observer. The quiet questioner. His life did not move in straight lines, but in graceful spirals, like a seed falling through air, or a ripple across still water. He did not conquer. He did not seek to be celebrated. He studied. He watched. He listened. He turned the ordinary, hands, faces, feathers, light, into things worthy of reverence. And though so much of his work remained unfinished, there was beauty in the very act of reaching. Each page of his notebooks, each line drawn in careful mirror script, was an offering, not of answers, but of attention. He asked how birds turned in the sky, how rivers found their course, how machines might mimic life, and how life, in turn, might be understood not as a series of events, but as a pattern of mysteries unfolding in time. Imagine yourself there again. A candle flickers on the desk at Clos-Luce. The room is still. Outside, the trees stir gently in the wind. A page turns. A breath is drawn. And somewhere, between the shadow of a hand and the curve of a smile, a question lingers, delicate, eternal. Now, slowly, we return. Back to your own room. To the quiet comfort of your bed. To the warmth of sheets, the rhythm of breath, the peaceful unfolding of sleep. Let Leonardo's world drift gently behind you, like an old page turned with care, the ink still fresh in memory, but the moment past. And let the quiet wisdom of his days, his questions, his gaze, settle softly over you like moonlight. You may find yourself dreaming of stone halls and notebooks, of slow rivers and starlit towers, or perhaps of nothing at all. That, too, is enough. Thank you for joining us tonight on Historical Nights. Sleep well. And good night.